is Shabbat at Congregation B'nai Israel. Singing and chanting, a cornerstone of the service.
It just would not feel the same if we were simply reading the entire service.
Mona Alfie is the rabbi of the congregation. She says she understands the importance of health guidelines, including the new ban on singing and chanting in places of worship, which is why she leads socially distanced services online with no members in the synagogue.
The way that we worship God best is by honoring each other. And the way we honor each other right now means keeping each other healthy and alive. What's the point of praying if it's going to lead to somebody's hospitalization or, God forbid, their death?
UC Davis professor Bill Ristenpart agrees with a singing ban.
I think that's a very prudent measure.
He studies the emission of expiratory aerosols, tiny particles you can't see by the naked eye that carry virus.
People don't think about this risk because they don't see it, but it's there. And there's a lot of evidence now that COVID-19 is transmitted via these very small expiratory particles that you can't see.
Here's what I really want to show you. Consideration. Discontinue singing in rehearsals and chanting and other practices and performances where there is an increased likelihood for transmission from contaminated, exhaled droplets. So I want to really look at this. Contaminated, exhaled droplets. CED, as I will call it now. So the CED, the contaminated exhaled droplets, could infect someone nearby. Are you with me on this, friends? All right. Contaminated exhaled droplets are so contagious that just by the fact of singing, you could make someone sick. That's what the tyrant in charge is telling us. Therefore, the guidelines are saying that you should not sing or chant. So what about talking? I guess we shouldn't talk anymore. We already know we're not supposed to breathe, which is why we have the mask. I get that part. Even though God breathed in the breath of life and gave us life, I guess we already shouldn't breathe. We certainly shouldn't breathe near anyone. And we don't want to exhale the contaminated droplets. Well, let me ask you this. If these exhaled contaminated droplets are so strong that they could infect someone nearby, why is it, now I want you to listen carefully and help me understand, and maybe you've already thought of this. Why is it if someone goes to get tested for this illness that they have a swab that is inserted way up in their nasal passage to get the virus? Can't you simply do this for your test? Have the swab here and do this. Why not? Or maybe I need to sing instead. So they could have the cotton swab and they could hold it for me here and I could say la 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 la. And all of my contaminated droplets will be right on the cotton. Better yet, how about they hold the cotton swab 5 feet apart, 5 feet away from me. If they hold that test 5 feet away from me and I just breathe, shouldn't all of my contaminated droplets be received by this cotton swab? And then that can be submitted for the laboratory test? Am I off base here, friends? If simply breathing and releasing the contaminated aerosol drops will get someone infected, how is it that they cannot do a test by me just breathing on that swab? That's my question for you.
Let's just stay ahead of the wind.
That the coronavirus may spread farther than previously thought in those tiny airborne particles we keep hearing about. It's commonly understood that those particles, for example, from a sneeze, can spread up to 6 feet without a mask. But more than 200 scientists are now urging the WHO to reconsider their guidance on that when it comes to indoor spaces. Our chief medical correspondent, Dr. John LaPook, spoke with two of the scientists.
Researchers around the world say the evidence is clear. The coronavirus is likely airborne. When we cough or sneeze, larger airborne droplets containing virus can travel, usually up to about 6 feet. But smaller particles can be emitted simply by talking or singing and can go much farther and linger in the air for hours.
They don't fall to the ground in 6 feet, and they can remain in the air for hours and potentially infectious for hours.
What would you like the WHO to do?
Acknowledge that the risk goes beyond 6 feet.
Dr. Don Milton co-wrote the letter signed by nearly 240 scientists from around the world. How certain are you that aerosols are playing a significant role in the transmission of COVID-19 past, say, 6 to 8 feet?
You look at the restaurant outbreak in Guangzhou, several bus outbreaks in China, and it's clear that one person could infect people over much more than 6 feet.
In some circumstances, those aerosols can travel more than 30 feet. Each layer of protection helps, like this cloth mask that partially blocks an aerosol from a simulated cough. What implication does that have for somebody in their home or in their office indoors?
You need to have everybody wearing masks who are not in the same bubble, and that you need to have good ventilation.
Improved ventilation systems are a top priority for New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo.
If there is a way to filter the air and there's a way to get COVID out of the air, then we want to do that.
Let's just stay ahead of the wind.
Dr. John LaPook joins us now. John, we're so hung up on 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet, and now I just heard you say the particles can go 30 feet. Does that mean if somebody's 30 feet away from me that I can get it from 30 feet out now?
Potentially. I mean,
Let's just stay ahead of the wind.
Yes, I also heard the scientists say it doesn't just drop to the ground, that it could linger in the air. So, John, how are we supposed to move in the world? What are we supposed to do?
Let's just stay ahead of the wind.
when we cough or sneeze, larger airborne droplets containing virus can travel, usually up to about 6 feet. But smaller particles can be emitted simply by talking or singing and can go much farther and linger in the air for hours.
Let's just break up into groups. Here it comes!
Why the lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God! Stop lying! Always lying to me. Too much lying, so much you know. You're making it hard for me, baby. You don't stop lying. Okay. Why you always lying? You know my God. Stop lying, always lying to me, and it's false lying so much. Yeah. You making it hard for me. Yeah, I love when you lying like that. So I'm